All right, we're all good. Let's get started then. Everyone, my name is Jean Henscheid. I am going to share my screen and we're going to get started and people can wander in. There is no waiting room. Let's see. How's that look? Let's see. And there we go. All right. So welcome everyone to the League of Women Voters of Idaho and the Babe Vote Remote Testimonial Training. Again, my name is Jean Henscheid. I'm a member of the board of the League of Women Voters. And what we all hope that you'll leave with from this 1-hour training are basic skills for giving remote testimony and doing the preparation to make that happen. All of the presenters today are experienced testifiers. They've done in-person and remote testimony, and they're going to convince you that you too can testify, and you should. First, we're going to get Alicia Abbott is going to talk about how to prepare to testify. Then Kathy Dawes, who's a giant of remote testimony, is going to give the nuts and bolts of remote testimony. And then Sam Sandmire is going to introduce just a terrific young testifier, Amaya Clayton. And then we'll open up for final thoughts and open discussion. Please again use the chat for your questions, and then we'll answer them at the end. And as I said before, the session is being recorded until the open discussion. So for those of you who are interested in testifying, if you're interested in face-to-face or in-person testimony, Sam will be talking about it December 18th, Babe Vote Testimony Training. And then on December 30th, the Legislative Advocacy Committee of the League of Women Voters of Idaho will be holding a meeting so we can do additional training and answer any additional questions the League members might have. We're all going to do little personal introductions so you understand where we're coming from when we talk about testimony. Again, my name is Jean Henscheid, and I've spelled it out there for you just in case. I'm a 7th generation Idahoan, and my PhD is in education policy. And I've been in higher education for too many years to count. And I have a passion, which is absolutely what you need to have if you're interested in doing testimony. You've got to have a passion that will provide you with the bravery you need to do this kind of work. I worked in the legislative sessions just prior to COVID with Senator Burgoyne on some Idaho Promise legislation, writing it, testifying it, doing press releases, et cetera, et cetera. Our executive producer, who is not here today, is Kendall Shaber. She's also a League board member, and she leads our election integrity and voting rights activities. She's extraordinary. She's a community organizer and a collaborator par excellence. And she's also an experienced testifier. We're sorry she can't be here today, but we are here, and this is the work that she put together to make this happen. I'm going to turn it over now to our co-producer, Sam Sandmire, who is from Babe Vote, and she'll be talking about herself. And so I'm going to share that a little bit about Sam. So Sam, take it away.
Hi, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate everyone being here to help us save democracy. My name's Sam Sandmire. I'm a volunteer organizer, advocate, and activist with Babe Vote. And I'm also a board member of Reclaim Idaho, which has nothing to do with today, but that takes up most of my time. I'm here to encourage you to testify to our elected officials on proposed legislation for several important reasons. One, by testifying, you can provide info from regular Idahoans to our elected officials. They usually just hear from lobbyists and special interest groups. So it's really important that they hear from regular Idahoans. Two, you can get on public record in favor of or against bills, which is really important if the bill ends up having legal challenges, because the judges will look back and say, wow, 99% of this testimony was against this bill, yet it was passed. So it's really important to get on public record. Three, you can explain your stand to the media and the public. Legislators may or may not really listen to you, but the media will be there. Even if they're not there in person, they'll be there remotely, and they will report on what's said. If you don't testify, then all they will hear is the other side. So it's really important, because then the media then informs the public, and the public can't be at all of these things. So, even if you don't think it's worth it, definitely testify. And the last thing, it prevents legislative committees from taking action out of the public view. They may do really good things, they may do really bad things, but your participation ensures that they will not act in secret. So I know my time's almost up, but just a few hints. I recommend you write down your testimony and write both a 1 minute and a 2 minute version in case they cut things short. Tell a personal story about how passing or rejecting the bill will affect you and other Idahoans. Point out any connections you might have, especially if you are a constituent of one of the legislators there. If you have property in their district, things like that. Note who you represent. So you might, one of our students said, I'm representing myself, but I'm also speaking for thousands of students who are old enough to vote, but do not have Idaho driver's licenses. She said that in an introduction when they were trying to make student IDs illegal for voting. And finally, don't be discouraged if they don't vote your way, but do hold them accountable. Write to them, post on social media. Those are my little hints. All right, now I'm really proud to introduce Alicia Abbott.
Let's see here. Hey everyone, my name is Alicia Abbott. I am a volunteer mentor at Babe Vote, and I spend a lot of my time teaching teenagers how to do remote testimony. And that is the theme of today's meeting, is learning how to do this from home and not being in person. So we're going to go through some of the online resources that you can bookmark now and get to learn now before the session starts. So when your testimony day comes, you will be able to participate in remote testimony. Let's see here. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about where we can find calendars, committees, the agendas for those committees, how to set up a bill tracker or a reading bills account, how to find out who your legislator is, how to find contact information for your legislators, how to give testimony remotely, and what to do if you need help. So to begin with, we have a really simple legislative calendar that the Idaho Legislature's website provides. You can see the URL at the bottom of my slide. And if you want to take a moment to write that down now, you can, but we will also make these slides available afterwards so you can have easy access to those websites. So this is the legislative calendar for 2022. 2023 is not up yet, but it will still be the same URL. And this just gives us a broad overview of what's happening in the State House that day. And it does not include all of the committee hearings that are going to be happening within the State House. So this is just a general idea if there's going to be advocacy days that week, what the Secretary of State or the Attorney General might be up to. Next, you will go and learn about the committee pages. We have 2 committee pages that are separate from each other, one for the Senate and one for the House. And each of these committees on the landing page, when you get to the Senate committees page, for example, I have up right here, you'll see that each of the committees have a section. And within that section, you'll see what days they meet, what time, and what room they usually meet. You'll also learn the name of the committee secretary and get their email address and a contact telephone number. In addition, you'll know who the chair, the vice chair, and all of the members of that committee. And on this page, you can click each of these individual links to get more information. And we're going to learn about that in the next slide. So for example, if you wanted to go into the Agricultural Affairs Committee page, you would click that heading that I showed you on the previous slide, and it'll bring up a list of a whole bunch of interesting things. First, you're going to see meetings in the meetings tab right here, but you're also going to be able to see tabs like members, subscribe. This button is where you can get updates for a committee you're particularly interested in. You can go to the committee's archive, public testimony overview, and public or testimony registration, remote and in-person sign up. So once you click into that heading for agricultural affairs, all of these extra options are there for you to choose from. Now, when you get into those, here, I'm going to go backwards. I should have pointed this out. Right here, there's a little agenda button. And if you click on that, it gives you a big version of the agenda for that day and hour, and it tells you exactly what legislators are going to be talking about in their committee hearing. If there's a bill being introduced on this particular agenda, there is not one being introduced, but there will be another hyperlink in the description area where you can go and click on that bill and read the actual bill if one is available, or information about the print hearing. Oops, I went faster than I wanted to. Sorry, guys. There we go. Sorry, guys, my computer's lagging. So in your agenda, you're going to know the location and time information, the purpose of the meeting, and again, all of the contact information will be located at the bottom of the agenda, as well as the committee members, the chairman and the vice chairman of that committee. Now, sometimes it gets really hard to keep a track of all of these agendas for the bills you want to pay attention to. So there's another important tool on the Idaho legislature's website to do a bill tracker. You have to set up an account for this, and you can do so by visiting the URL that's at the bottom of the slide. Once you get to that login page, it'll give you instructions on how to get a bill tracker account set up. And in here, you'll be able to organize the bills you want to track by topic. So for our purposes, people in this group are probably going to be interested in voter elections and things of that sort. So you can choose elections, legislation in the bill tracker, and it's going to show you a variety of bills that go under that category that you can track and which committees they're going to be in. This is pretty rudimentary stuff, but just in case there's anybody who needs to know, on the legislature's website, you can look up who your legislator is. It's important to remember that committee hearings where we give testimony, your legislator might not be a member in that committee, but you may want to contact them separately about this legislation that you're giving remote testimony on in case it makes it to the House or Senate floor. Contacting legislators, you can find that information in a variety of places. We showed you how to see that information on the agenda and committee pages, but there's also a membership page that you can use to locate contact information for legislators. On this page, you're going to find a short bio what committees the legislator sits in, their email address, and telephone numbers. Some tips about giving testimony in person, and I know that's not today's topic, but you're going to want to know what room and sign up at the entrance if you're in person. But the important thing for today is be prepared to give a 2 to 3 minute speech. And there is some pomp and circumstance. So be sure that your testimony fits the measures of decorum that the State House has set forth. So that means being respectful, really sticking to policy and not people who you may be adverse to, who are in that committee hearing. And just like you would in person for remote testimony, you want to be really prepared. And pretty soon our next speaker, Kathy Dawes, is going to talk a little bit more about how you can be prepared for remote testimony on Remote Testimony Day. But I'm going to end up with talking about written testimony, because it is very important and it's a little confusing on the legislature's website. I recommend that you always submit your written testimony the morning of your opportunity to give testimony via Zoom. And we're going to see examples of that. Just in case there isn't enough time for you to give a spoken testimony. Just because of how the way the website is set up, you cannot both register to write in your testimony and give remote testimony. So what you're going to want to do for remote testimony is sign up for the remote testimony, and the morning of, you're going to send a nice email to the secretary of that committee, CCing all of the legislators, letting them know that you intend on giving in-person testimony. But if you're not chosen for that time allotment, that you would like your written testimony to be put in the record. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Kathy Dawes, who I'm a huge fan of. And she's going to give you a little bit more of the tips that you can use to be ready for remote testimony.
Okay, I think, let's see, there we go. I think I've got it right. Does that look right? Okay, thank you so much. And I really appreciate Alicia's comprehensive look at what's on the website, because there's a lot there. My name's Kathy Dawes, and I was actually the first person in Latah County to testify remotely in the Idaho legislature when that first became available as a trial run. I had to drive myself over to the University of Idaho's KUID station and have the manager there help me hook up with a microphone and a TV remote, and I did it. It wasn't even on a bill that I felt very strongly about, but because I felt so strongly about giving testimony and using this service, because I didn't want to lose that, that I did it, and I'm glad I did. Since then, I have testified about a dozen times or more, and sometimes representing myself and my husband, but sometimes representing the League of Women Voters of Idaho at the request of the League President and the Advocacy Committee. This incredible opportunity has meant that those of us far away from Boise, here in Moscow, for instance, can speak directly to our lawmakers, and we could never do that before. It took the legislature a long time to make this possible, and we don't want to ever lose it. So use it or lose it. So please take the time and effort to use this opportunity. Yes, I know it's scary. It's scary, especially the first time you do it. But honestly, it gets easier every time you do. So here are the basics. Okay, so as Alicia showed you, if you go to a meeting of Senate Health and Welfare Committee, for instance, on Thursday, February 10th, this is the agenda. This was last year's. I brought up this one in particular because I wanted to show you that HCR 29, which was actually a resolution that the League of Women Voters promoted, and I was very involved with that, so that I just wanted to call your attention to that. So what you'll do is check the agenda in the committee where the bill or resolution is being discussed, and Then scroll down to the very bottom of that page and you will see this. Public testimony will be taken by registering through the following link. So what you'll do is click on that link, register to testify. Then, and it does say, as Alicia mentioned, if you have written testimony, please provide a copy to the committee secretary. So that's definitely a good recommendation. All right, when you go to the bottom of the page, it will give you lots of information about remote testimony registration, what kinds of things you're going to have to fill out and do in order to register. So you can read through all of that. At the very bottom, you'll see remote testimony help. If you're having difficulties doing it, you have an email address or a phone number to call, and they will help you. So scrolling down even further, right under the remote testimony help, you will see, now this is a view of a different committee meeting with different bills entirely, because those other ones are no longer available for us to click on and see. So I picked this one, and I have here that what you'll do is pick the bill you want that's going to be discussed that day and click on the registration box right here. And it will take you to the place where you'll fill out the information that they need from you. Okay, first of all, you'll select in what way you want to testify. You can click this first box if you're either you just want to let them know, yes, I'm for this, or no, I'm against it. And that's it. You don't want to actually give testimony. You can do that. Or you can click in-person testimony, or it says by phone, and I've never done that. I don't know anyone who has, so I don't know how to do that one, but I always click on remote or virtual. And then, and you can also click on written if you want to just provide written testimony. Okay, it will also now ask you all this other information, your name, address, city, state, everything that has a red star beside it is required. So you do need to know your district number. Your email address is required, but your phone number is not. Then you click whether you're for or against the bill. Then you would click or write down whether you are representing just yourself. You would write the word self. Or if you're representing an organization like the League of Women Voters, which you would have to have permission to do that. So make sure you have permission before you put any organization's name in there. And then it says written testimony right here. But written testimony is not going to be available to you, like Alicia said, if you're signing up to remotely testify. Okay, so you just skip that part there and go on down to the very bottom, down here at the very bottom where you'll have to click, I have read all the rules, and then click submit. And then you will be registered. Automatically, immediately, you will receive an email message in your email that says you have signed up for this remote testimony. It will happen on this day at this time. And by the way, all times are given in Mountain Time. So be aware of that. Even on the agendas, they're all Mountain Time. And then it will give you the link. It will show you the link that you are going to click on when you actually are asked to testify. Okay, so once you're registered, then getting ready to testify. First, prepare your testimony ahead of time, practice it and practice it and practice it and time it. As was said earlier, there's a time limit. Some committees allow 3 minutes per speaker, while others only allow 2 minutes. But I have to say also, I've been in some meetings where the chair decides that everybody's only going to get 1 minute because we're running short on time. So you have to be ready for anything. Have a couple of different versions. The 1 minute one just got to have your main bullet points there so that you don't miss anything. Include time for a short introduction, which should be about 10 seconds long, and I'll give you an example of that. And as I said before, you will have received an email with information how to join the hearing. Click on that link when the meeting is to begin. Caution, the chair is the one in charge of deciding the order of the items to be discussed in the meeting. That chair may choose to switch things all around. So even if your bill was listed last on the agenda, it may go first. So you have to be ready at the beginning of the meeting to testify. You don't want to miss your chance. On the day you testify, Make sure you dress appropriately. You're going to be on camera, especially from the waist up. Make sure you have a very reliable internet connection. There's no noise or distractions in the room, and turn off your phone. Okay. Now, when you're testifying, you will be brought into the meeting visually, virtually, and it will look something like this. This picture is of the chairman speaking, and it says the next testifier will arrive shortly. And so what happens is at the very beginning of the bill, when the bill is introduced, it will be introduced by the co-sponsors or the sponsor. They will explain the bill, and then they'll have testimony from the floor and remotely. Sometimes the chair will decide they want to have a for person and then an against person next, and following alternatively throughout the testimony time. Or they may choose to have an online remote testifier go first, and then someone from the floor, and again, alternate back and forth from those. It's totally up to the chair to decide. But your name will be called when it's time to testify, so you'll hear that, and then you're going to take a deep breath. It takes a bit of time for them to connect you, so you have to be patient. You know, you see the little twirly sign going that says they're hooking you up. And again, take a deep breath, whatever it takes. And then when you are on, when you see your picture on the screen, you will need to unmute yourself. You may either leave your video off or turn it on, but be aware of what your default photo looks like. If you've got your dog pictured there, that might not be a good idea, okay? All right, if you read your testimony, and I have to admit, I do this because I don't want to forget a single thing, and I've timed myself. I know it's the right time and the right length. I'm not going to run short or go long. And I want to give you a hint. Be sure you're looking directly into the camera on your computer. And the way you can do this and read at the same time is to actually hold your paper right under the camera, so you can quickly glance up and down as you speak. I've got two versions of the testimony here, one that's short and the longer version. So I'm prepared for either one. All right, you begin your testimony, and as was mentioned by Alicia, there is pomp and circumstance. You must address the chair and the committee members and ask them, or thank them rather, for the opportunity to testify remotely. That's not required, but I want everyone to do that because I want them to know how important it is that we can do that. State your name, where you live, whether you're speaking on behalf of yourself or an organization, and state then whether you're speaking against or in favor of the bill. And that should take you maybe about 10 to 15 seconds. So build that into your time or your testimony, and use the rest of your time to explain why you feel the way you do. Now, I took a picture of myself here testifying, and you may see a timer that will count down from 2 minutes, so you can keep track of how you're doing on time. And whatever you do, do not go over time. You want to respect the time of our legislators. They've given you this opportunity. You want to respect that time and thank them one more time again, if you get a chance to. All right, be courteous and brief. Personal stories, as was mentioned by Sam, they're great. Try not to repeat previous points unless you feel strongly that they should be repeated. Be prepared to answer questions, but you don't have to answer those that you don't want to answer. But if you are asked a question, you can respond first by acknowledging both the chair and the person asking the question before you answer. I'll give you an example. At this meeting, Representative Toon asked me a question, and after she asked the question, the chair turned to me and said, "Ms. Dawes," and I said, "Chair Plow and Representative Toon, this is the answer to your question." That's the procedure you would use, okay? If you're speaking on behalf of an organization, you may have to say something like, "I'm sorry, but I'm not qualified or authorized to answer that question," or "I'm not prepared to answer it, but I will get back to you with an answer." And then, of course, follow through on that. Remember which committee member asked it. You can look them up find their email address and write back to them. Or you can even write to the chair and ask the chair to pass it on to all members of the committee. The chair will thank you for your testimony, and the tech person will remove you from view and go on to the next testifier. That's it. Relax. And know that you made an impact on legislators who will be voting on the bill or the resolution. So that's it. Thank you so much for, I hope this made sense to you. Okay.
Back to you, Sam.
Okay, thank you. I would like to introduce a video in which 17-year-old Amaya Clayton explains why ballot drop boxes, which the proposed bill would have banned, are an important and secure part of our election process. So we're going to play the video, and then I'll come back in and talk a little bit more. Thank you.
Representative Crane for the opportunity to testify this morning. My name is Amaya Clayton, and I am a junior at Renaissance High School, a born and raised Idahoan, and a student who is amazed and excited by the political process. Over the last year, I have gotten to have numerous amazing experiences and opportunities to be more politically involved, but my absolute favorite was getting to be a poll worker last November for my very first time. Through that experience, I learned a lot about our elections process, things that have influenced my stance on elections and voting rights. It is because of this that today I stand before you to testify in firm opposition to House Bill 693. Last November, I got to serve as a poll worker in Precinct 1701. If you don't know, Precinct 1701's polling place is the Ada County's elections office, which means I got to witness firsthand every aspect of our elections process, even more so than if I was working somewhere else. One of the especially exciting opportunities that I got to have was the opportunity to be a part of collecting ballots from ballot drop boxes at the end of the night. At roughly 7 p.m., those of us working at the elections office began to get paired up with staff members and assigned to different locations. My partner and I were assigned to the CUNA ballot box. So at roughly 7:15 p.m., we drove out to CUNA to park and wait for the polls to close. We sat there in the car, waiting, watching the time until exactly 8 o'clock p.m., when we both got out to ensure that the ballots were always in view of two people, unlocked the box with the key that we had been given and were expected to give back immediately upon return, followed this step-by-step process to retrieve the ballots and secure them in the locked bag, and promptly drove straight back to the elections office to lock them in the ballot cage. This experience was eye-opening for me, and I was amazed at the security and preciseness of the process. I truly believe that it is a process everyone should understand and appreciate. Yet House Bill 693 aims to rid us of this secure and important process. House Bill 693 aims to take away many citizens' access to voting, and House Bill 693 aims to solve a problem that doesn't exist. If we are really concerned about the security of ballot drop boxes, then we might as well just get rid of all public mailboxes as well. Representatives, I urge you to reject House Bill 693. Thank you for your time, and I will stand for any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Clayton. Are there questions? Representative Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Amaya. I was just kind of, so you actually grab the ballot. So you're unlocking a box, you're getting in, you're touching the physical ballots. Are they in an envelope within them, or is it the actual ballots? Can
Ms.
you
Clayton.
see how people voted?
Chairman Crane, Representative Scott, no. The ballots are all in secured envelopes, and we do not actually touch them. There's a specific bag that gets pulled out and dropped into another bag that's immediately secured with a zip tie that cannot be cut or anything. We never see the actual ballots, hold the actual ballots. It is completely secure and very precise. Everyone knows their role, and it's very precise.
Thank you.
Sounds like a future clerk in the making right there. Thank you for being here today, and tell Phil McGrain to watch out if you run against him.
So everyone, are we back to me? Yeah. Okay. So everyone was very impressed with Amaya's testimony there, and she's going to talk to us in just a few minutes. But as an experienced poll worker, Amaya positioned herself as an expert and demonstrated knowledge that at least one of the legislative committee members did not have. I do highly encourage everyone to become a poll worker, because then you will have that experience and that knowledge too. Amaya did a great job. She introduced herself. She told why they should listen to her. She was passionate, but also composed and confident. She was respectful, but did not hold back or sugarcoat anything. I mean, when asked a question, it was no, basically you're mistaken. So in short, Amaya is a rock star who gives me abundant faith in our future. And I just want to give you a chance to talk with Amaya for a short time here. May I introduce Amaya Clayton?
Hello, thank you so much, Sam. Yeah, I just kind of wanted to talk about how awesome of an experience testifying was and how powerful of an experience it can be, and how much I encourage everybody else to do it. Since that testimony, this is not at all what testifying is about, but it's really cool. I've been recognized multiple times by people being, oh, you're like the one who gave the testimony at the polls about the ballot boxes. I worked the elections office again on election day in May. And I had people at the elections office talking to me about thanking me for testifying. And so that's one of the cool things about testifying is not only are you fighting bad legislation, but you're standing up for people who aren't testifying or who bills that will affect them, but maybe they don't know about, or they just don't have the time to testify. So that's really one thing, cool thing about it. And then the other thing I wanted to say, kind of to add on to Sam's point about why I think that my testimony was really useful and valid, is I'm a high schooler. So I've been in pathos, ethos, and logos land in English class, which are basically 3 rhetoric appeals. So pathos is emotional, ethos is like your ethical, is how I think of it. So it's like, why should I listen to you? Why is your experience and what you have to say valid? And logos is logic. And the way that I set up my testimony was I kind of created some pathos at the beginning by talking about how I'm a born and raised Idahoan. I've lived here my whole life. I'm super passionate and interested in politics, to kind of get them to understand who I am and be interested in why I, a random high school student, am skipping class to come testify in front of them. And then using ethos to say, I'm a poll worker, I've worked the polls, I care a lot about politics, I'm involved in this, I know what I'm doing. And then using logos to just methodically go through the process of exactly what I did. So sometimes when you testify, when you're testifying on a bill, it'll more be like 3 points that you're going to make, or a certain amount of bullet points. So you're going to be like, this bill is bad for this reason, and this reason. But this testimony I structured really strategically. So instead of being super explicit 3 points, all I did was talk about the story of when I went to CUNA and I took the ballots out of the ballot box, and I purposefully emphasized all of the really secure parts. So if you heard when I talked about it, I was like, we went with 2 people so that the ballots were always in the custody of 2 people. And it was a locked box so that they couldn't be stolen, and it was zip tied so that they couldn't be messed with. And just kind of emphasizing all of those things was kind of using those logos to lead the legislatures through the process of it all, and make it a more narrative testimony instead of as much of a bullet pointy one. But yes, thank you so much for letting me be here and talk to you all today.
Great. Thank you, Amaya. That was wonderful as usual. And everyone can watch more videos of Amaya's and other young people's testimonies at Babe Vote's YouTube channel. Just search Babe Vote on there. I also want to thank all the presenters and thank the League of Women Voters. The League of Women Voters has been so helpful, partnering with Babe Vote to help young people register people to vote. Many of the Babe Vote volunteers are too young to vote themselves, but they've registered thousands of voters. And the League has contributed in many ways, including donating T-shirts, flying one of the Babe Vote kids up to North Idaho, a lot of things. So I really want to thank the League of Women Voters. Remote testimony, one thing I forgot to say, it ensures that the legislators cannot claim that they are only hearing from Boise or the great state of Ada. So you folks who are outside of the Ada County area, it's so important that you testify remotely, or come on down if you want. You can stay at my house. Please remember that there are 2 additional opportunities to polish your testimony technique. We're gonna have Q&As in a minute, but Sunday, a week from today, December 18th at 4 p.m. at my house, we're gonna do in-person testimony training. So if you are in the Boise area, you're welcome to come. That will be more youth focused and youth led. The Babe Vote, Amaya and Shiva and some of the Babe Vote young people are going to be taking the lead on that. Now we're going to stop recording. And first of all, thank you everyone for showing up, and thank you, Jean, for setting all this up. We're going to stop recording and move to an open discussion. So we'll be looking in the chat and answering your questions. Thank you. Thanks, Amaya.